Hi everyone, today we're going through the AQA GCSE Maths Higher Tier Calculator Paper 3 from summer 2023. I recommend you have a go at it on your own first. The question paper and the mark scheme are in the description. Let's get straight into it. Question 1. The line with equation y equals 2x plus 7 intersects with the y-axis at A. Find the coordinates of A. The general form for equation of a line is y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. So c is just telling me where is it crossing the y-axis. In this equation, y equals 2x plus 7, the 2 is the gradient and 7 is where it crosses the y-axis. So the answer is 0, 7. Question 2, write down a fraction equivalent to 1.875. You can use your calculator for this question. Just type in 1.875 and press the S to D button and you can see it's 15/8. Question 3, we've got an equation where we have variables on both sides. We have these x that are on both sides. The first step, whenever we have something like this, we want to try and get all of the letters onto one side. So let's try and move this 3x over to the left side. It'd be better to move over to the left side just because we have more of our x's over here and it'd keep our x's as positives. So we're going to take away this 3x first from both sides, taking away 3x there and taking away 3x there. So 5x take away 3x gives me 2x plus 11. 3x take away 3x cancels out, is equal to 19. Let's move this 11 over to the other side. So 2x is equal to, taking away 11, take away 11 is equal to 8. X would be equal to 4. Question 4, a map has a scale of 1 to 5,000. So whenever you have scales, this is going to be in centimeters and this is going to be in centimeters. So I've got 1 centimeter to 5,000 centimeters. And I can see I'm going to be working with meters in the question. Before I look at the question, I'm going to convert this into meters. So I know there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So I need to divide this by 100, remove those 2 zeros. So it's 1 centimeter for every 50 meters. How many meters are represented by a length of 4.5 centimeters on the map? So the ratio of centimeters to meters is 1 centimeter for every 50 meters, and we want to try and find out what 4.5 centimeters are. On the left hand side, we've multiplied by 4.5, so we'll do the same thing to the other side. 50 times by 4.5 gives me an answer of 225. So times 4.5 gives me 225 meters, and that's already in meters. Question number 5. The number of hedgehogs in England is expected to reduce by 4% each year. Assume there are now 1 million hedgehogs in England. Work out the expected number of hedgehogs in England after 5 years. In this question, we're going to be using the compound interest formula because the amount of hedgehogs is going to decrease by 4% and it will decrease every year based on the new value. So it won't just decrease by 4% of 1 million, it'll decrease by the new amount every single time. The formula that we use for compound interest is the original amount multiplied by the decimal multiplier, and that is raised to the power of the amount of repetitions. Let's go through those. The original amount here is 1 million. The decimal multiplier, because this is being reduced by 4% every year, we're starting off with 100% and we're reducing it by 4% every single year. So that will be 96%. And as a decimal, this is 0.96. So we're multiplying by 0.96 and it's after 5 years. So it's going to repeat 5 times, 0.96 to the power of 5. So we're doing 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 times by 0.96 to the power of 5. That gives me an answer of 815,373. 815,373. And I've rounded this to the nearest whole number, so nearest unit, because I can't have part of a hedgehog, so I need to round it to something appropriate. I could round this one down or I could round it up. For this one, I've just chosen to round it up. Question 6. Here is a cuboid A, and cuboid B is made from 2 of cuboid A. Volume of A to volume of B is 1 to 2. So the volume of this is 1 part and the volume of this is just been multiplied by 2. Matthew says the surface area of A to the surface area of B must be 1 to 2 because B is made of 2 of A. Just think, so you've multiplied the volume by 2, so you've also multiplied the surface area by 2. The surface area is just the amount that's covered on the outside. If we take a look at shape B, we can see this face that's in the middle of the 2 cuboids is covered by each other. So we're actually missing one of the faces. The cuboid of B isn't twice it. So we would say no, and one of the faces is covered. Question 7a, complete the table of values for y equals x squared plus 2x. They've already done some of the values. I need to substitute these values into this equation. So first we'll do negative 2 in brackets squared plus 2 lots of negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4, and 2 times negative 2 is minus 4. So 4 minus 4, which is 0. Then we've got 1 squared plus 2 lots of 1. 1 squared is 1 plus 2, which is 3. Part B, draw the graph of y equals x squared plus 2x. We've already got a table of values for this equation. So let's just plot these coordinates into here. These are my x coordinates and these are my y coordinates. So the first one is at negative 3, 3. And always do this with pencil. The next one is at negative 2, 0, negative 2, 0. Next one, negative 1, negative 1, which is there, 0, 0, and 1, 3. This makes sense. It's a U shape, it's a parabola, with the center of that line being at x is equal to negative 1. Whenever you do this, you want to go through all of the points with a smooth curved line. Use a pencil in case you need to do it again. I would recommend turn the page upside down and follow the shape of your wrist. It makes it a little bit easier. So draw in like that instead of like that. Question 8. Jing has £2,450. She saves some and gives the rest to her 4 brothers. The money saved to the money given to brothers is 2 to 5. Let's just work out the amount that she saved and the amount that she's given to her brothers. So saved to brothers is in the ratio 2 to 5. The total amount that we're sharing is 2,450. Altogether here we have 7 parts. 2 add 5 is 7. So 7 parts, which is equal to 2,450. We want to find out the value of 1 part. So on the left hand side we've divided by 7, and on the right hand side we also need to divide by 7. So 2,450 divided by 7 gives me 350. So each part is worth 350. So the amount that she saved is going to be 2 multiplied by 350, which will be 700. And the amount that she gives to her brothers is going to be 5 times by 350. 1,750. And if you add up both of these numbers, you get 2,450. So that means we've shared it correctly. She gives each of her 4 brothers the same amount. So let's just work out how much each of her brothers get. We just need to divide this number by 4. So each brother receives 1,750 divided by 4. So that is £437.50. £437.50. Does each brother receive more than £430? So the answer is yes, they each receive £437.50, which is more than £430. So when you do these questions, it's useful to think, what if I find out given that they've given me this information? So I worked out a little bit here, I worked out a little bit here, and that saved me at the end having to think about it all at the end, and I had the answer straight away there. Question 9. The pie chart shows information about people at a fair during 3 days. There were 132 more people on Friday than on Thursday. So if I compare Friday and Thursday, I can see that I've got an angle of 80 degrees for Friday and an angle of 25 degrees for Thursday. So the difference between those two angles, 80 minus 25, is 55. And I'm told that those 55 degrees is equal to 132 people. So 55 degrees is equal to 132 people. I want to divide this so I can work out how many people are in this Saturday group. So first let's work out how many people are in this Saturday group, and it might help us out later. So altogether, these two angles, 80 add 25, 80 add 25, gives me 105 degrees. So the remaining angle here, because it's angles around a point, those will add up to 360. Taking away 105 gives me 255. So I'm trying to get this number to 255. So could I think of a number that goes nicely into 255 and into 55? Both of these numbers divide by 5, so I'm going to try and get this one to 5. On the left hand side, I've divided by 11, so on the right hand side, I'm going to divide by 11. 132 divided by 11 is 12. And then here, I need to think about what have I multiplied 5 by to get to 255. So that's going to be 51. And on the right hand side, I also need to multiply by 51. 12 times by 51 gives me 612. So that's 612 people that were attending on Saturday. Question 10. Use trig to work out the value of x. Whenever I'm doing trig, I want to label the side opposite the right angle, which is the hypotenuse, the longest side, then the side opposite the angle, which is the opposite, and the side that's remaining is going to be the adjacent. We're going to be using SOHCAHTOA here, so SOHCAHTOA. The sides that we care about are the sides that we're given and the sides that we're trying to find out. So it's A and O. Which of these have A and O? So it's going to be tan. So tan of theta is just the angle, 58, is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. So it's going to be x, we're trying to find out that one, over 46. I can rearrange this, so I times by 46 on both sides. So I get 46 tan 58 is equal to x. So just type this into your calculator and you get the value of x. So 46 tan 58 is equal to 59.301. So x is equal to 59.301 centimeters, and that's to 3 decimal places. Question 11, Millie is estimating the value of this. She rounds each decimal to one significant figure. So let's round both of these numbers to one significant figure. Whenever you're talking about significant figures, you're looking for the first non-zero digit. And both of these don't start off with 0, so it doesn't matter. We're just looking after the first digit. For this first one, we're looking between the 8 and the 3. So the 3 is my decider, and it's telling me whether I'm rounding 8 up or down. If it's 5 or above, I give this one a shove. If it's 4 or below, I just let everything go. So that will turn to 8. The next number, I've got 10.21. This is a bit easier. The line will be here. This is 4 or below, so it's just going to round down, and it would round down to 10. So let's rewrite this using our new numbers. So it's 1 over the cube root of 8 in bracket squared multiplied by 10. The cube root of 8 is 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8. So it's 2 squared multiplied by 10. 2 squared is 4, and 4 times by 10 is 40. So it's 1 over 40. Part B, my estimate must be more than the exact value. Without working out the exact value, give a reason how she can know this. If we take a look at these two numbers, we can see that this one has been rounded down, and we can also see that this one has been rounded down. So we made this number on the bottom, the divisor, smaller. If you're dividing by smaller numbers, you're going to get a larger answer. If you're dividing by larger numbers, you're going to get a smaller answer. So we can just say the divisor has decreased, therefore the estimate will increase. Question 12. Here is a biased spinner. Bias just means the probabilities are not equal. I'm going to assume that this is a right angle, and I can assume that this is 1/4 and this is 3/4. It doesn't actually say that this is 90 degrees, but we'll just assume it for now. Part A, Ali, Ben and Carrie want to know the probability of spinning red on the biased spinner. They each spin it and count how many times it lands on red and divide by the total number of spins. All this is saying is they're trialing this spinner out, and they're trying to figure out what is the probability of landing on red. Ali says, I spun red the most times. Ben says, I spun the spinner the most times. And Carrie says, my relative frequency of red is 0.25. Now just remember, I'm assuming that this is 90 degrees. It might not be. Who had the best estimate for the probability of spinning red? And give a reason. I would choose Ben because he's spun the spinner the most times. The more times that you do something, the closer that you're going to get to the actual probability. So we can write this by saying Ben has spun most, and the more number of trials that you do, the closer you are to the actual probability. Closer. Part B, Dev spins the spinner 80 times. He says, my relative frequency of red is 0.185. Give a reason why his relative frequency must be wrong. In this question, we're using expected outcome. So expected outcome is the probability multiplied by the number of trials. And this is just saying, if I know the probability and I know how many times I do something, I would have a rough idea of how many times I would expect that thing to happen. The spinner has been spun 80 times, so that's my number of trials, and the probability of getting red is 0.185. So 0.185 times by 80 gives me 14.8. This doesn't really make sense, because if he's spun it 80 times, he needs to have an exact amount of spinning it red. He can't have part of an amount. He's got 14.8, which is a decimal. So this would be wrong, because this gives a decimal answer. And the answer must be an integer. The answer Part Part C, Eleanor spins the spinner 125 times. The relative frequency of red is 0.32. Work out how many times the spinner landed on green. Probability of red is 0.32. Probability of red is 0.32. And we know the probabilities will add up to 1. So the probability of something happening will be 1. So the probability of green will be 1 take away 0.32, which gives me 0.68. And if she's spun it 125 times, we're going to be using the same formula that we used previously, the expected outcome formula. Here the probability is 0.68. The amount of trials is 125. And you can take a look, we get a whole number this time, so that means it's probably correct. It's 85 times. Question 13, Charlie is driving 293 miles home. He leaves at 9 AM and we're trying to figure out whether he will be home by 2:30 PM. He travels the first 176 miles at an average speed of 48 miles per hour. We need to find the amount of time that it took to travel this 176 miles. Let's use the formula triangle for distance, speed, time, and we're trying to find out what the time is. So time is equal to distance divided by speed. Here the distance is 176, and that's being divided by 48. That gives me 3 2/3. 3 2/3. That's a mixed number, and that's in hours right now. I'd rather have this 2/3 in minutes, so I'm going to convert 2/3 into minutes by doing 2/3 times by 60. So 2/3 of 60 is 40 minutes. So that is the same as 3 hours and 40 minutes. Next part of the journey, he drives the rest of the way at an average speed of 65 miles per hour. We need to work out the distance that he's traveled for this part of the journey. So he travels 293 miles in total, and he's already traveled 176 miles. So 293 take away 176, which gives me 117. That's the distance that he's traveling now. And we're using the same formula as before, 117 divided by the speed, 65, which is 9/5 or 1 4/5 equals 1 4/5, and that's in hours right now. Like before, I want to change this 4/5 into minutes. It'd be easier to work with. 4/5 of 60, 4/5 times by 60, which gives me 48. So it's 1 hour and 48 minutes. Charlie is traveling 3 hours and 40 minutes and 1 hour and 48 minutes. So we need to add those two together. So 3 hours and 40 minutes plus 1 hour and 48 minutes. 40 plus 48 is 88, but it's going to be 1 hour and 28 minutes. So 1 hour and 28 minutes. There we have 1 hour plus 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. So in total, Charlie's traveling 5 hours and 28 minutes. We know Charlie sets off at 9 AM, and we're adding 5 hours and 28 minutes. 5 hours, 28 minutes. 9 plus 5 is 14. So it's 2 PM, 2:28. The question asks us, will he be home by 2:30 PM? The answer is yes. He will arrive before 2:30 PM. Question 14, Kiran paid income tax and national insurance on her annual salary. So whenever you get paid, the company will pay you, but the government will automatically take their taxes out. So they might take income tax, national insurance, and they might take other taxes out. But for now, we're just concentrating on these two. Kiran has paid £5,186 in income tax. How much national insurance did she pay? So first we need to work out her total actual salary. We'll be using this box. The first £12,570 is tax-free, and the rest of her salary she's paying 20%. So 20% of the rest of her salary is equal to 5,186. So we need to find out what 100% is. On the left-hand side, we want to try and get it to 100%. So we're going to multiply by 5 to get from 20 to 100, and we'll do the same to the right. 5,186 multiplied by 5, which gives me 25,930. And we're going to add that on to the amount that she earns tax-free. Which is 38,500. This is telling me her total salary for last year was 38,500. Now we can work out what her national insurance will be. The first 9,880 is tax-free, so we'll do 38,500 take away 9,880, and the rest of the amount will be the amount that she's being taxed national insurance for. So 38,500 take away 9,880, which gives me 28,620. She's being taxed 13.25% of the rest of her salary. This is the amount that she's going to be taxed national insurance on. We need to find 13.25% of that. What is 13.25% as a decimal? To convert percentages into decimals, we just need to divide by 100. So the decimal point will move before the 1. So that would be 0.1325. The decimal multiplier here is 0.1325. So we'll multiply the amount that she's going to be taxed on by that decimal multiplier, and that will give me my final answer. That gives me £3,792.15. So this is the amount that she's paying national insurance on. Question 15. 180 runners started a marathon and some of the runners did not complete it. The histogram represents the times of the runners who did complete the marathon. We're trying to find how many runners did not complete the marathon. Let's first work out the total amount of runners that did complete the marathon. The formula that we're going to use here is frequency is equal to the class width multiplied by the frequency density. The class width is just the distance between each class interval. So the first one, the distance between 140 to 160 is 20. And the height of this, the frequency density, this is at 0.75, halfway between 0.5 and 1, and it's going up in 0.5s. So this one will be at 0.8. Multiply those two together and you get the frequency of this class interval. 20 times 0.8 is 16. Next one, class interval is 20, multiplied by 1.75, so 1.8. 1.8, so that would be 36. The class width here is 40. 40 multiplied by, that'd be 1.25, so that'd be 1.2. 40 multiplied by 1.2 is 48. The class width here is 60, multiplied by, this is 0.5, this is 0.45, and this is 0.4. That gives me an answer of 24. If I add up all of these numbers, I find out the total amount of people that actually completed the marathon. So I'm doing 16 plus 36 add 48 add 28 add 24. That tells me 152 completed the marathon. 152. It's away from the 180 people that started the marathon. So 180 take away 52, which gives me 28. Part B. The table shows information about the runners who did not complete the marathon. It's going to ask me to draw a box plot for this information. Whenever I'm drawing box plot, I need the minimum, I need the maximum, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and the median. Let's see what we've got. We've got the least distance, which is the minimum, the greatest distance, the maximum, the lower quartile, the median, and the interquartile range. So we're missing the upper quartile. How do we work out interquartile range? Interquartile range is just the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. We don't know what the upper quartile is. The interquartile range is 9. Upper quartile would be x, and the lower quartile is 11. Add 11 to both sides, 20 is x, so the upper quartile, we'll just put it in here, is 20. Let's draw this information onto the box plot. The smallest distance is 5, so I draw a big line at 5, and then I'll do the greatest distance, which is at 23. This is going up in 0.5, so this would be 22.5, and 23 would be there. Always do this in pencil. Lower quartile is 11. 11 would be over here. Upper quartile is at 20. Median is at 18. This is 15 and this is 20. Halfway between them will be 17.5, so it'll be the one just next to that. Then I just need to connect these up. It's referred to as a box plot, but sometimes it's referred to as a box and whiskers plot. In the center, we've got the box, and on the edge, we've got the whiskers. Lower quartile, the median, and the upper quartile with the box, and we'll just draw a line at the end and at the front, connecting the minimum and the maximum. So there's our box plot. Question 16. In this right angle triangle, A is equal to 16, and A to C is in the ratio 4 to 5. We know what A is, it's 16, so we can now work out what C is. On the left-hand side, we've multiplied by 4 to get to 16. We'll do the same thing to the right. 5 times by 4 is 20. So now we know C is equal to 20. Work out the area of the triangle. If we want to work out the area of a triangle, we need to multiply the base by the height and divide it by 2. Right now, we have the height, but we don't have the base. How could we find out this missing side of this right angle triangle? We've got the longest side, which is the hypotenuse, and we've got one of the shorter sides. So we're going to be using Pythagoras. Formula for Pythagoras is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. We know a is 16, 16 squared plus b squared, that's what we're trying to find out, is equal to c squared. C squared is 20 squared. 16 squared is 256 plus b squared is equal to 20 times 20 is 400. Let's take away this 256 from both sides. B squared is equal to 144. So the square root of b and the square root of 144 is 12. Now we know b is 12, we can use this formula for area of a triangle. We're doing 16 multiplied by 12 and dividing it by 2. We can just do 12 multiplied by 8 because I've divided that 16 by 2. 12 times 8 is just 96 centimeter squared. Question 17. Solve this equation with algebraic fractions. I'm going to ignore this right hand side for the moment and just concentrate on simplifying this left hand side. I've got x plus 8 over 2 plus 9 minus x over 5. We always want common denominators here, so what's the lowest common multiple of 2 and 5? That's going to be 10. So we're trying to get everything to 10. We'll need to multiply the left one by 5 and multiply the right one by 2. And this will be equal to 4. So x plus 8 multiplied by 5, I'm multiplying all of that by 5. So 5 times by x is 5x. 5 multiplied by 8 is 40. I'll extend this line and I can write this one above it as well. Here I'm doing 2 multiplied by 9 times by negative x. 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times my negative x is minus 2x. This is all over 10. That's equal to 4. Let's clean up the numerator here, collecting like terms. I've got 5x minus 2x, which is 3x, plus 4 plus 18, which is 22. On the bottom, I've got this divided by 10, so I'd like to move that over to the right-hand side. I'm going to times by 10 on both sides. So times by 10 there, and times by 10 there. 4 times 10 is 40. Now x is being multiplied by a 3, and we're adding 22, so let's take away the 22 first. Taking away 22 from there is 3x, is equal to, take away 22 from there, 18. Divide by 3 on both sides, x is equal to 6. Obviously you can check this, substitute it back in, and you should get 4. Question 18, we've got a function of f of x and g of x. Show that f of g of x is this expression. Whenever you read in functions, it's best to read right to left. Normally when we read English, we read left to right, but functions we read the opposite way, right to left. So we're going to substitute g of x into f of x. That means whenever I see x in f of x, I'm going to substitute it with 2x plus 4. So let's see what this looks like. F of g of x is equal to, this x is being replaced by the 2x plus 4. So it's 2x plus 4 in bracket squared plus 6 lots of 2x plus 4 again. Here I've got 2x plus 4 in bracket squared. We need to expand out this bracket. So this really means 2x plus 4 multiplied by 2x plus 4. A lot of students will make the mistake and just do 2x squared and 4 squared. So we'll expand out that bracket here. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times by the 4 is 8x. 4 times by the 2x is 8x again. And 4 times 4 is 16. Let's expand this one. 6 times by the 2x is 12x. And 6 times the 4 is 24. So there's quite a bit that we need to clean up. I can see I've got an x squared. There's no other x squared, so that's 4x squared. That one's done. I've got 8x plus 8x, 16x plus 12x, which is 28x plus 28x. And then 16 plus 24, which gives me 40. And I can see this one matches up with this one. Part B, solve f of g of x is equal to negative 5. So even if you didn't get part A, they've already given you this expression, so you can do part B even if you did get part A. F of g of x is this expression that we just worked out. So 4x squared plus 28x plus 40. And here we're told it's equal to negative 5, so we just need to solve this quadratic. Whenever we solve quadratics, we always want everything on one side, so it's equal to 0. So to move this over, we need to add 5 to both sides. That will become add 45. That will just stay the same. Next, we need to factorize this into double brackets. I multiply the coefficient of a multiplied by the c, so 4 times by 45 gives me 180. And I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to make 180, and they're going to add to give me this coefficient. So add to make 28. If you're not sure how to find those two numbers, you can write out the factor pairs of 180 and see which ones add up to 28. The first one would be 1 and 180, that's too big. Then 2 and 90, still too big. 3 and 60, 4 and 45, 5 and 36, 6 and 30. 7 I don't think would go in. 8 wouldn't go in because you can't half this 45. 9 goes in 20 times. 10 goes in 18 times. So I can see it's going to be 10 and 18. I've chosen the numbers 10 and 18, so I'm going to rewrite this as 4x in brackets plus 10. And the second bracket, I'm also going to write 4x again plus 18. Now you might be thinking, if I do 4x multiplied by 4x, that gives me 16x squared. So I'm going to cancel both of these down. I'm looking for whatever I can divide both of these two terms by. So I can divide both of these by 2, and I could also divide both of these by 2. So this would become 2x plus 5, and this would become 2x plus 9. If you wanted to check it, a nice way to check it is 2x times 2x gives me the 4x squared. 5 times 9 gives me 45. Last step, I just need to solve it. Here I have two numbers that are being multiplied to make 0, so one of them needs to be 0. I'll make this left-hand side equal to 0, and I'll make this right-hand side equal to 0. When you get good at this, you'll be able to see it straight away. So here x is equal to negative 5 over 2, and here x is equal to negative 9 over 2. The easy way to do it is it's going to be the inverse sine of this one divided by this one. So that's just a little trick for you. The two solutions of this is x equals negative 5 over 2 and x equals negative 9 over 2. Question 19, two integers have a difference of 6. So that just means two whole numbers have a difference of 6. I'll write that in algebra as a take away b is equal to 6. The integers are multiplied together, 9 is then added. Prove algebraically that the result is always a square number. This is saying if I multiply a by b and then add 9, this is always going to be a square number, and this is what we're trying to prove. Let's rearrange this so that we have a is equal to, if I add b to both sides, I get 6 plus b, or I'll write it as b add 6. So a is equal to b plus 6, and now I can substitute it into here. I'm going to replace the a with b plus 6. So b plus 6 multiplied by b plus 9, and let's see what we get. So b times by b gives me b squared, 6 times by b gives me 6b, and then I've got that 9 on the end. If I take a look at this, if I factorize this, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me 9 and two numbers that add up to make 6. This one's quite nice. It's just going to be 3 and 3. So in the first bracket, it's b plus 3. In the second bracket, same again, b plus 3. If I take a look at these, this is the same thing that's happening. So it's just b plus 3 in brackets squared. Therefore, the result will always be a square number. Question 20. Sunil thinks E and D are linked by the equation E equals 36 over D. The graph shows the values of D and E for when D is between 2 and 6. Choose one point on the graph and state if Sunil's equation is correct for that point. I'm just going to look for a coordinate that I think is quite easy. So I can see I've got 2 here, and that goes up in 1, so 16, 17, 18. That coordinate is 2, 18. I'm going to substitute these values in here and see if it's true. So E is equal to 18. That's equal to 36 divided by 2. 36 divided by 2 is 18, so that means it is true for that point. It is true for the point 218. Part B. G is directly proportional to the square root of... This symbol just means it's proportional to this. G to H is 3 to 2 when H equals 16. So G to H is 3 to 2 when H is equal to 16. So H is 16 right now. If I multiply that by 8 and I multiply that by 8, 3 times 8 is 24. So the ratio of G to H is 24 to 16. Work out G to H when H is 100. So we're going to be using this now. Instead of writing this symbol, this proportionality symbol, I'll change it to equals K. This K is something that's being multiplied by the square root of H. And we know what G and H are. We can use these numbers, 24 and the 16. So G is 24. We don't know what K is. And we know what the square root of H is, it's 16. So this will become 24 is equal to, square root of 16 is 4k. Divide this side by 4 and divide this side by 4, so k is equal to 6. I can now substitute this back into my original equation. So G is equal to, the k has become a 6 root H. And now it's telling me I need to find out the value of G and H when H is 100. So H is 100, I'll substitute that in there. 6 times by root 100 is equal to G. G is equal to 6 times by 10, 60. So the ratio of G to H is 60, because G was 60, and the H is 100. I can simplify that. I'll get rid of the zeros, dividing by 10. I've got 6 to 10, divide those by 2, so I get 3 to 5. Question 21. A solid shape is made from centimeter cubes. The front elevation and side elevation of the shape are shown. So this is the front, this is the side. We need to work out the maximum possible number of cubes and the minimum possible number of cubes. I'm going to think of this at the front. Let's just draw it out so we can see what it might look like. This is the side elevation. I'll label the sides. That's 5, that's 7, that's 9, and that's 8. And the front elevation, we've already got the 9, which is this height. That matches up with this one. The depth of this shape would be 12. Really, what we've got here is this compound shape, and it's been repeated 12 centimeters long. Let's find out the area of this compound shape and then multiply it by the depth, because the volume of a prism is just area of cross-section multiplied by the depth. I'm going to split this compound shape into two rectangles, this one and this one. I'll need to work out the height of this rectangle. So 9 take away 7 is 2. So 5 times by 2 gives me 10. That's the area of that one. 8 times by 7 is 56. So that's the area of that one. Total area of this shape, 56 and 10, is 66 centimeters squared. The area of the cross section is 66 and the depth is 12. So 66 times by 12. This is in centimeters cubed, and we know that it's made out of centimeters cubed. The maximum possible number of cubes would be 792. We now need to think about this minimum possible number of cubes. Instead of having this compound shape that's repeated 12 long, it could be hollowed out, which means that this bit would be empty. So we'll draw that compound shape again. And the area of that is 66. And we've still got a depth of 12, but this time, instead of being full like before, we're just going to have it 1 centimeter thick. I know the area of the compound shape at the front. I now need to work out the area of this. So it's going 12 along, and it has a height of 9, but we need to remember we've already worked out this row of centimeters cubed. So we need to take that away. We know that the depth is 12, but we'll think of this rectangle as having a length of 11 because we've taken that one away. 9 times 11 is 99. So I've got 99 cubes here and 66 cubes here. That would give me a total of 165 centimeters cubed, or 165 cubes. Question 22, shape A and shape B are shown on the grid. Describe the single transformation that maps shape A onto shape B. So I've gone from A to B, and I can see the shape has got smaller. The 4 different types of transformations that you need to know are translations, reflections, rotations, and enlargements. I can see that shape B is smaller than shape A, so it's going to be an enlargement with a fractional scale factor, and it's also been rotated, so there's going to be a negative involved as well. Let's first find the center of enlargement. The way we do that is we pick 2 common points, and we join them together with a line, and then we repeat that a couple of times. So that's our first point done. Next point, I will choose this top corner with this top corner. If I join those two up, I can see the line of intersection is at 7, 4. And I'll just do one more just to be 100% sure. I'll do this corner, and hopefully it should cross at 7, 4. Let's join them up. And yeah, it crosses at 7, 4. So there's 3 marks you can get here. The first mark you get is for writing enlargement. The second mark you get is writing the center of enlargement. And this is at 7, 4. I get the last mark for working out the scale factor. So this has a side of 1, 2, 3, 4, and the same side has 1, 2. So I've divided by 2, or I could think of it as multiplying by a half. But this time, because the shape has been rotated as well, it's going to be negative a half. The scale factor is negative a half. Question 23. A boat sails 35 kilometers north from A to B. So A to B is 35 kilometers. From B, the boat sails to C and then back to A. So it goes to C and then it goes back to A. Show that the distance the boat sails from C to A is 79 kilometers to the nearest kilometer. What could I work out given this diagram? I can see that A to B and the north line is going to be a straight line. So this will be 180, take away 80, so that'll be 100 degrees. I'm trying to work out the length of AC, so I'll call that X. And I can see I've got 2 sides with an angle between it. So that means I'm going to be using my cosine rule. An easy way to remember your cosine rule, very similar to Pythagoras, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 lots of bc cos of a. So here, the a squared is a bit that we're trying to find. B squared and c squared, 35 squared plus 65 squared, minus 2 lots of 35, multiplied by 65 cos of 100. I'm going to put all of this into my calculator, and then I'll square root it at the end. Very important to square root it. A lot of students will forget that bit. We've got 35 squared plus 65 squared minus 2 lots of 35 times by 65 cos of 100. That gives me 6,240.1. So a squared is equal to 6,240. Remember to square root it. Square root of my answer would give me 78.9943. 78.9943. And it tells me I need to round it to the nearest kilometer. And this does equal 79 kilometers to the nearest integer. Part B, work out the bearing of A from C. From C means we are starting at C and we're going to go all the way around clockwise until we reach A. So we're trying to find out this angle. So how could I find out this angle and this angle? I can see I've got parallel lines here. So these will be co-interior to each other. These two will add up to 180. So 180 take away 80. This angle will be 100. I now need to work out this little angle here. In the previous part of the question, I found that this length was 79 kilometers. So now I have two pairs of opposites with one missing piece of information. That's the angle that I'm trying to find. That tells me that I'm going to be using my sine rule. Sine of A over A is equal to sine of B over B. Sine of A is going to be sine of 100 over 79 kilometers is equal to sine of B, which we're trying to find. So I'll call it sine of X over 35. Let's move this 35 over to the other side. So we'll multiply by 35. 35 sine 100 over 79 is equal to sine of X. And to get this sine over to the other side, I need to take the inverse sine of both sides. So the inverse sine of 35 sine 100 over 79 will give me my final answer. So let's type that in. We've got the inverse sine of 35 sine 100 being divided by 79. That gives me 25.8685. So this angle is 25.8685. I know that angle and this angle, and all of these will add up to 360. It's angles around a point. So I've got 100 plus this, which gives me 125.8685, and I'm going to take this away from 360. That will give me my final answer. So we're doing 360, take away 125.8685, which gives me 234.1315. 234.1315. I need to write it as a bearing, so I just need the first three digits. So the final answer would be 234. That's it for today. I'd recommend you write down all of the topics that you struggle with before you try another past paper. And then once you've done that, you can see how much you've improved by. Feel free to reach out to me if you need any help, and subscribe to my channel where I'll be posting more past paper walkthroughs and worked solutions. I'll see you soon.